Alrighty, so we are moving on to 4.1.4, finding slope and y-intercept notes, and the date is 11/12/19. So go ahead and write that. And because we're just going to go to the back of this page, and this is page 2, and this is 4.1.4, finding slope and y-intercept. And when we're done, this will just get glued right in here, which we'll do at the end. Okay? So we're doing our finding slope and y-intercept notes. So we're going to do our slope definition, y-intercept definition, which both of these should be a review for you. Then how to find your slope and y-intercept from an equation, how to find your slope and y-intercept from a table, how to find it from a graph, and then you'll have 2 practice problems. So for our definitions are going to be pretty straightforward. So this is our definition of slope. So slope is the steepness of a straight line it is how a line is increasing or decreasing. So that's it for that. And we know slope is also known as rate of change. I'm just bullet pointing these. We know it's also called rise over run. And lastly, we know it's called the letter M. So you'll be hearing or referring to these as all 3 of these. Again, it's all the same. It's all your slope. Y-intercept, your definition. The point where the line crosses the vertical. Remember, vertical is up and down y-axis. Okay? So the point where the line crosses the vertical y-axis, and we call this our initial value, our starting points, or as a letter it is B. Okay? Those are definitions for intercept, what it's called, and it's very important to just know what these are called because you'll hear them being called different things all the time. Remember, these are your notes. You can make them as pretty or as ugly as you like. Remember, we'll be doing a notebook check over these. So, how to find the slope of an equation. So the first step, you're just going to circle the coefficient of x. So remember, coefficient is just a number that is attached to a variable. So that is important to remember. So number attached to a variable. So we want to circle that coefficient. I'm going to use this color here to represent my slope. So my slope is going to be green in this case. And again, we're going to circle the coefficient. So remember, m is another name for slope. And in our equation, y equals mx plus b. M is our slope, and it's always attached to our x. So in this case, in y equals 2x minus 6, 2 is the coefficient. It is attached to x. So therefore, our m is just 2. Remember, m is our slope. So 2 is our m. Just by looking at this equation. Okay? So that's how you find your slope. And then I'm going to use a different color to represent our b. So for b, which is our y-intercept, I'm going to use this red here. So to find the y-intercept of an equation, you're going to circle, well, we already just circled, so let's box the number being added or subtracted in the equation, okay? So again, the number being added or subtracted is here, but you want to keep the coefficient that's attached. So we circled our m, and we're boxing our b, and notice we take the side that is also attached with it. So our b is not 6, it's actually going to be -6. Remember, our b is our y-intercept. So that is our starting point. So we are actually starting at -6 on our y-axis. Okay? Make sure you get that down. Looks like this. Okay? So our m was 2, and our b was -6. Our m was attached to x, our b was attached by addition or subtraction. Okay, so now let's go to a table. So to find the slope of a table, we have to find our change in blank over the change in blank. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Remember, our slope was green. So I'm going to stay consistent. To find our slope of the table, we need to find our change in rise over the change in run. Okay? And so we'll be talking about that in a minute. We're going to make sure we just keep consistent with, okay, our m is green. And so now you need 2 other colors to show our rise and our run. So my rise is going to be orange. My run is going to be blue. And remember, rise over, this word over is telling us to divide. Okay? So you have rise over run. And we should know our rise is our y values. Our run is our x values. So rise goes up and down, run goes left to right. And so now we can find that change. Let's start with our rise. So we're just trying to see, how does 3 become 6? How does 6 become 9? How does 9 become 12? How does 12 become 15? So 3 becomes 6 by adding 3. 6 becomes 9 by adding 3. 9 becomes 12 by adding 3. 12 becomes 15 by adding 3. So our change in our rise is going to be +3. Now let's check out our run. Has a change from here to here to here to here. So -2 becomes -1 by adding 1. -1 becomes 0 by adding 1. 0 becomes 1 by adding 1. 1 becomes 2 by adding 1. So therefore that change is +1. And then you just simplify. 3 divided by 1 is just going to be 3. So m equals 3, and that is our slope from a table. Okay. So to find the y-intercept of a table, remember our y-intercept was this beautiful red color. To find the y-intercept of a table, find the y value where x is 0. So where x equals 0, that is where you'll find your y value. That's going to be your b. So we're just going to go to our table. We're going to find where x equals 0. So we come to our x's. X is 0 here. So this is the value, or our y-intercept, because it is next to 0. Okay. So that means 9 is our y-intercept for our b. So again, our m is 3. Our b is 9. And if we wanted to make this into an equation, we know we would just put it all together in the form of y equals mx plus b. So it'll just be y equals, our m is 3, attached to the x, plus 9. And that's how you would put that all together for your equation. Okay? Remember, m is here, and b is here. Okay? Keep moving. So now we're looking at a graph. Looking at our graph, you're still going to find our slope by doing rise over run again. So we're still going to do our slope by still finding rise over run, because you can do that in a graph. You do not need a table to do this. Find our rise over our run. Oops. Over our run. Okay. So again, we're doing rise over run. And you do this between 2 points. So you see the 2 points they give you. Sometimes you have to pick the 2 points, but you want to make sure it's on an intersection. And to find my rise, I'm going up and down. So I'm just going to go up and down here. And so notice I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So my rise is 4, and it's positive because it's going up. And my run, I'm just going to go over. And notice it forms a right triangle. That's how you know you're doing it right, if your triangle is a right triangle. So right triangle just means that it can form this little box here. So it's a right triangle. Go back to our run. We have 1, 2, 3. So I went over 3. And so that is going to be our slope. Our slope is 4/3. We can't simplify this. If we did, it would be like 1 point something. So we just leave it as a fraction when it comes to writing in our equation. And then to find the y-intercept of a graph, you're just going to circle the value where x equals 0. So just circle that value where x equals 0. So you're finding, where does this line cross the y-axis? So again, this is our y-axis that goes up and down, and we're looking to see where this line crosses, and this actually gives it to us. So you would just circle the point here. So this is our b, okay? And we don't want 0, we want the number attached to 0, we want the y value. So the y value here is -5. So that would be our b. And then you just put it together to form an equation. So you have y equals mx plus b. Our m was 4/3, always attached to the x. And because it's -5, you can do 4x minus 5, or y equals 4/3 x plus -5. Both of these answers are correct as far as the equation is concerned. So you pick however you want to write it. So it's either -5 or plus -5. Same thing. Okay. And so now these are your practice problems. So I encourage you to pause the video here and to go ahead and try these. And definitely if you want to try them on your own, pause it now, because I'm about to pause it myself and just do them and show you the answers, and then you can check your work. So go ahead and pause it. So hopefully you paused it and you're ready to check your work. So these are the answers to your practice problems of finding slope and y-intercept. And I'm going to head down the equation as well. It's just good to get in the practice of doing that. So here I know my slope is going to be rise over run, which is my m. So my rise is increasing by 2s. My run was increasing by 1. So I did 2/1, which was 2. And then I found where x equals 0, and that gave me my b, which is my y-intercept, or my starting point, and that was 1. Then I just put it all together. Y equals 2x plus 1. The 2 is always, or the m is always attached to that x, and then the 1 is always attached by addition or subtraction. Because 1 is positive, it was attached by addition. And then here for your graph, you can already tell this is a negative graph because it's not increasing, it's actually decreasing. So that tells us that our slope has to be negative. So therefore, looking at m, our rise over run, our rise went up 2, but then it went to the left. And because it went to the left, we had to make sure the run was negative. If the run goes to the right and the rise goes up, those are positive. If the rise goes down or the run goes to the left, those are negative. And so because it went to the left, it was a -4. So be careful there. And then 2 over -4 just simplifies to -1/2. And then B was right here. And so they already gave us that. It was 0, 1. And so that was just B is +1. And then we had y equals -1/2 x plus 1. And again, the B is positive, so we want to make sure it's positive, but our slope is negative, and we had to make sure we show that. So hopefully you were able to get these correct. If you got anything wrong, don't erase it. Just show your correction next to it in a different color so you know what you did wrong so you don't make that mistake again. Remember, mistakes are good. They make us better and help us do better. So what you're going to do now, you're going to take this and glue it in your notebook. Remember, I'll be checking this at the end of the chapter, which will be after 4.17. So we're just going to glue this in here just like that. All right. That's it. Bye.